All right, let's face it. The markets are rough right now, times are uncertain, and prices are all over the place, sideways, upwhere, downwhere, who knows where, and people are uncomfortable.
China they want to make a deal.
We start with the continuing turmoil in the financial markets. In the last hour, stock markets have opened in Europe. The DAX in Frankfurt is down more than 6.5% currently. The FTSE 100 down around 5%. And the index in Paris down nearly 6% in early trading. President Trump's tariffs are continuing to send shockwaves and fuel fears of a recession.
Now, it's exactly a week since one of the biggest, supposedly most stable cryptocurrencies took a massive tumble. It's still down since then, and the crash sent shockwaves throughout the community of users.
I know what the hell I'm doing.
Nobody likes seeing Bitcoin going down, or strategy if you hold it, or at the end of the day, your stock portfolio. And this is something that's happening across on a global scale for many of the different markets.
These countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything, sir.
So everybody's feeling it. But let's get into the tariffs and hit the $1.2 trillion trade deficit in the nose with a nail and see if this actually holds up. Is it fair what America's doing, or is it unfair? Are the trade practices right now that exist globally, are they unfair or are they fair? So for years, the US has bought way more than we actually sold, especially when it comes to goods. We let cheaper products come into the country, they come flooding in, and yeah, it keeps the prices low, but at the end of the day, it shuts down local factories and it shuts down American jobs, and these jobs ultimately go overseas to countries like China, who then have their people working, they're funding their economy is getting strong, while US jobs in these particular areas are getting weaker. So it's not that trade is bad, trade actually helps economies, but you have to look at what's actually fair. If one side is doing all of the buying and getting none of the protection, then is that actually fair? That's not trade, and many US government officials are saying we're getting ripped off. Now, I get it. US is the superpower, US has all the money, and I can't sit here and say that the US has been fair in every deal across the world with every country in every other area, because we know that's not true. But at the end of the day, in this particular deal, I think what Trump's doing with the tariffs could actually make sense, and let's take a look. So tariffs don't actually block trade, tariffs just make the rules fair, and they give American workers a shot again. And I also understand both sides of the coin of people looking and saying, okay, this is going to hurt other countries, this could take jobs away from people in other countries, and I do understand that. But let's take a little bit of a look at the history here, okay? In 2023, the US had a $1.2 trillion trade deficit. Now, if you look at the recent numbers with China alone at the end of 2024, the trade deficit for the US was $295 billion, which means we buy $295 billion more dollars from China than they actually buy from us. Now, you could look at this and go, okay, America, big, but China also big, right? Big country, big economy. In fact, if you stack up the GDP, the gross domestic product, of what China actually produces per year, and America, I don't have the exact date on it, but we're comparable in terms of economies and strength. So when you look at this and you start to look at the tariffs and the taxes, the question is, are those fair? If we're buying way more from China every single year and we're funding their economy and we're funding their workers to get jobs, and it's taking away jobs from America, should we do something about it? So that's number one, the trade deficit. We buy more from them, they buy less from us. But also the taxes are unfair. So when you look at the taxes and how it stacks up between America and China, also called the tariffs, that is not equal, it's more in favor of China. So we have to look at this and we have to pay attention. Now, I know the big question comes in from many people to say, America big, another country small. Is that fair? Can you really look at the trade deficit? Understood. I get that. In that situation, I can understand one's point of view. How is a small country going to buy lots of goods when their checkbook is smaller? So how are they going to buy lots of goods from America or match America's buying that America's doing from them? That's a good question. But in this scenario, let's take a look. Because if I'm a large country and I'm buying a lot from you and funding your economy, don't you think it would make a lot of sense to give me a deal? Don't you think it would make a lot of sense to not actually tax me to the degree that I'm actually being taxed? And so what's being corrected here and what's being fair in the marketplace right now is Trump is actually saying and looking at people and going, hey, let's even the playing field a little bit. Let's make things fair. And let's also not forget that in funding the economy with China, where a lot of money goes into their economy, some of that money comes back to buy American land. Some of that money comes back to go into U.S. treasuries, where they're actually buying treasuries from us. And what that actually means is they give us their money and we pay an interest rate to them. So what does that mean? We're in debt to China. So you could start to look at this and go, protect American jobs, protect America in general. And does America really need protection? Not really, it's a superpower. But if the deals aren't good, and if the deals aren't fair, superpower or no superpower, let's make the trade fair. Because I know you wouldn't want to be in a deal, particularly like this, okay? When we're looking at tariffs only, you wouldn't want to be in a deal metaphorically where it was unfair towards you. So I'm open to the other side and looking at how is it unfair to another country that we want to balance the trade, and I'd like to hear other people's comments. So this means, back to the deficit, we bought $1.2 trillion of goods from other countries in terms of $1.2 trillion more than they bought from us. That's the end of 2023. By the end of 2024, it got higher. So it's kind of like another metaphor of I'm running a business and I'm spending $100,000 every month, but I'm only making $20,000. That's a metaphor, not brass tacks, but you get the point. That's not a business, it's kind of a breakdown. And Trump, being a smart business guy, he's making some moves. And many countries are actually responding right now. 60 to 70 countries have written in, and they want to come to the table and make negotiations. Now, this whole trade deficit thing, this isn't new. It's been going on. We've had trade deficits every year since the 1970s, but it's gotten bigger and harder to ignore. And tariffs could be the way to fix it. They are a way to bring things back in balance as it relates to goods. Now, let's talk about NAFTA. NAFTA was broken, and Trump came in to change it. Back in the 1990s, we made a trade deal called NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. It was supposed to help everyone. It's supposed to help the US, it's supposed to help Canada, it's supposed to help Mexico, but what actually happened? Similar scenario as I'm talking about with China. US companies, they move factories to Mexico, where labor is actually super cheap. They pay workers about $2 an hour, and they make products over there. And then they ship the products back to the US tax-free. So whole towns in America, from Ohio to Pennsylvania to Michigan, got demolished. And President Trump's looking at this, and he saw NAFTA, and he's like, that was the worst trade deal ever made.
NAFTA is a disaster.
So he scrapped it. And in 2020, he came out with the USMCA, United States, Mexico, Canada. So what did it actually do? It raised wages in Mexico. It required more auto parts to be made in North America. It added rules for digital trade. It gave the US the power to challenge unfair trade practices. It's not perfect. No deal ever really fully is, but it's a step in the right direction. And even the tariffs, will they be perfect? No, but they're a step to level the playing field. So when you look at this, every country should have the right to protect their own. Now, some countries are hitting back, but most people want to come to the table and negotiate and make things fair. So let's not act like the US is doing something that's overly wild here. We know all the countries I just talked about have tariffs. China has tariffs, the European Union has tariffs, Canada has tariffs. These countries protect their industries all the time. But we've been playing defense for years with our hands tied behind our back. And the simple picture is you're going into a football match, you got flip-flops on, and then you got the other team, they got pads, they got helmets, and they're coming at you full speed. Tariffs are how we protect ourselves and how we play it actually smart. All right, so let's talk about the services surplus, because there's a whole conversation going on about this, about services. But the services surplus, it doesn't fix the goods problem. All right, so let's take a look at this. Some people say, wait, the US actually has a trade surplus in services. True. True statement. We sell more services to other countries. Software, consulting, education, entertainment. So we sell more services than we import. But here's the thing. Services, in many cases, are digital. Jobs are local. You can't outsource a plumber. You can't import a truck driver. You can't replace a steel worker with a Netflix subscription, right? So the goods deficit still hurts because it kills local jobs, and that's what Trump's trying to do. He's saying, hey, blue-collar America, middle America, we want to get jobs back to you. We want to start building factories again in the United States of America. We have to have industry here. We have to build things here. And tariffs protect those jobs. They help bring jobs back. Tariffs raise the price of foreign goods just enough to give American products a shot. And that's what Trump is trying to do. So if you're a small business and you own a business in Texas or you own a business in Ohio, now you have a reason to build again. In the past, people were giving up. People were being put out of business. And here's the thing. People aren't always chasing the cheapest option. So if we level the playing field, some people will want to buy American. And when demand goes up, factories hire more. People will work. Towns will grow again. And the United States can take care of their own as well. And I'm not saying in other scenarios that the U.S. isn't taking care of their own. I'm not saying there's not a lot of money printing going on and manipulation worldwide with the U.S. dollar. That's another subject, okay? But I think Trump's trying to do something that creates fair trade, and I think he's trying to do the right thing. So the tariffs also give the U.S. leverage. And tariffs aren't just about money, they're also about leverage. Without tariffs, we have to sometimes beg and plead a little bit for deals. With tariffs, we negotiate from a position of actual strength. So the USMCA only happened because we threatened tariffs. That's what gave us the power to change the rules. So how does all of this tie into Bitcoin and strategy and the markets again? Let's zoom out for a second and take a look at the bigger picture. There's a hurricane going on. Sometimes tornadoes are coming through. Sometimes it gets calm for a moment, or like, oh my God, the storm is over, and then all of a sudden plummets again. I get it. All right? It doesn't feel good. I bought a little bit more today, but I've got investments too, like anybody else. Not financial advice. So at the end of the day, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. With all the uncertainty, with the turmoil, it looks like the Fed is going to cut interest rates. And coming up soon, Trump is calling to Powell and he's saying, cut the rates, Jerome, cut the rates. And Jerome's kind of just pedaling at his own pace, saying he's going to take action when it's necessary. But we think a rate cut is coming in June. Hopefully it'll be sooner. I think doubtful. But it looks like more interest rate cuts are coming in 2025 and 2026, maybe 4 or 5 rate cuts. Why is that actually good? It's good news because at the end of the day, when the interest rates go down, then that is going to free up more cash flow for people. If I'm a business and I want to go borrow money, I can borrow it at a lower interest rate. If I want to go buy a house, I can buy it at a lower interest rate. If I want to actually refinance some debt, I can refinance some debt at a lower interest rate and take the excess cash flow, and guess where it flows? It flows into investments. So while all the risk money right now, not all of it, some of it's flowing from stocks and Bitcoin, a lot of the whales are holding, but it's flowing into the 10-year US Treasuries, which is the safe money right now. I don't think it's going to sit there and be parked there for long. And I think at the end of the day, as things reset, as the interest rates get lower, as people come to the table and negotiate, the 60 to 70 countries that wrote in and said that they would, the storm is going to calm down, the sun's going to start shining a little bit, and the markets, I think, are going to boom back up. Bitcoin's going to turbocharge back up. And let's not forget that we have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Let's not forget that we are a pro-crypto administration now. Let's not forget that we are moving in the right direction to balance the global playing field with trade. With trade, I'm saying, okay? And to balance the field also, but other countries around the world tend to follow leadership of the United States. And so, while the U.S. has a Bitcoin reserve, while El Salvador was faster to the gun than the U.S., and many countries are looking at this right now, Bitcoin, I think, will dominate the globe. And lots of money will move back into Bitcoin. Bitcoin will shoot up, and Strategy, one of the stocks that I love, that I'm invested in, not financial advice, also love Bitcoin, also hold lots of Bitcoin. Those will eventually turbocharge up, and we will have a bull run again, and the sun will be shining, and the music will be freaking blaring, and it'll be happy music and not doom and gloom music. So, at the end of the day, the money will start to move. What are your thoughts? Drop them in the comment box. Not meant to be offensive at all towards other countries.